Welcome to The One Thing, where each episode features our signature segment, Pandora's Box. We dive into hot topics that challenge the norm and ignite real conversation.
Inspired by Greek mythology, Pandora's Box isn't just about chaos. It's about truth, transformation and hope. That's what we bring to every conversation.
Have a cause or business that deserves to be seen? Want to be remembered forevermore? Be our next special guest. Contact us today at theonething@edgeradioaustralia.com.
Hello and welcome to Edge Radio Australia, and you are listening to The One Thing with the lovely Lisa, Aaron Malloy. Oh, didn't say lovely, sorry.
No, not that lovely.
That's because he's not that lovely.
He's the lovely of my life. Not the love of my life, Richard. Just saying.
I'm being scrapey, and let's be absolutely honest, but that's all right. I don't think I even make the list.
He can be lovely.
He is lovely.
But he's not lovely online.
Oh, he is. And Lisa, I'm going to let you two have that out later.
Yeah, we'll have that argument.
All right. And of course myself, Leanne. So it's lovely Lisa, lovely Leanne and Aaron. And today's special guest. And our special guest today is Holly-Ann Martin. She's an extraordinary woman. I only met her today and I already know quite a bit about what she does, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. She is the founder and managing director of Safe for Kids, a Western Australian organisation dedicated to child protection education. With over 35 years of experience, she has developed resources and delivered preventative programs to combat child sexual abuse across schools and childcare centres throughout metropolitan and regional Australia. Since 2010, that's 15 years, her training has reached approximately 4,500 children, 1,000 teachers and 1,000 parents annually. Not total, annually. Her work has taken her to more than 80 remote Indigenous communities across Australia, Western Australia, Queensland and the Northern Territory. And she has delivered training in every state and territory. And she is also Lisa's friend for 40 years. I'm going to throw it over to Lisa.
Yeah, it was all very positive until that bit. Right, there we go. Guilty by association.
What can I
This
say?
is why I
attract
separated
good
you
quality
two.
people.
You do. You definitely do.
And I think that was a great description of Holly. Extraordinary. We didn't even discuss that word, but that is definitely the case. So Holly and I first met at a school, and back in those days, it was actually called Kenwick Special School because you were allowed to call schools by that name. I think in those days, Holly, they probably even had buses that we were allowed to use words like spastics back then as well, weren't we?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so it was a very, very different time. And we were working as volunteers at the Kenwick Special School. So we've got a friendship that has spanned for a lot of years. And then the next time I had contact with Holly, she was actually working as an EA, an education assistant at a school. And I got to see her in action with what she's so passionate about with educating children. And we've stayed in loose contact over the years, and I've just always been so impressed, Holly, with the work that you've done. And it would seem that it's really been recognised as well, because you've actually now got the acronym of OAM after your name. Mm-hmm. So what does OAM stand for, Holly?
Order of Australia.
Order of Australia. So how did that come about? Tell us the story.
Somebody that I was working with up in the Pilbara felt passionately about the work that I was doing and nominated me. So it was for service to children.
Yeah.
So it's quite, humbling to.
Yeah, that is absolutely incredible.
The guy, I actually want to say, I don't even want to use the word congratulations because clearly you deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Simple
100%.
as that. What an incredibly important thing to do. I mean, our kids are our future. Our kids are the most, I judge people very, harshly on the way that they treat kids. You're doing something really fundamentally important, and it's sort of surrounded with education, and I love that because I think education long term, if you're educating people to do the right thing and you're educating children to be able to have mechanisms to bring the truth forward, I think long term you'll have a much bigger effect than if you just put the Band-Aid on it now, that's for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Holly, describe a day to us. Or even a week. What's a week like in your life with the type of work that you're doing?
Depending where I am.
Mhm.
So predominantly I do a lot of work in the Northern Territory. I've just come off 7 weeks in 7 remote communities in the Northern Territory.
So why are you doing so much work in the remote communities?
Word of mouth,
Yeah.
basically. I'm not saying that it's happening more in those communities, but word of mouth. Schools hear about the work that I do. The reason I got to the Northern Territory was I trained the Police Child Abuse Task Force initially, and they were going out taking disclosures from children. And then the principals would go, we don't know what to do about this. And so they said, you need to get Holly from Western Australia. It's the only person in the country that can help you with that. And so the fact that I've been in 87 remote communities, and it's the local people that actually go back
Mhm.
and say to the principals, about time you, in fact, I've got a great story. A very well-known Aboriginal man in a community that is in a very predominant song, black fella, white fella. He was in the Warumpi band, was in this community, and he'd been to 4 of my workshops.
Okay.
And I was there 4 times in 18 months because of the behaviour of the children. And because I talk very openly, I've run 99 workshops with solely Aboriginal men, and he'd go to the principal, about time you got that porn lady back.
All right. Well, that should be the name, the title of the show. We've got the porn lady. There we go.
So maybe, Holly, if you can just break down for us rather than, because sometimes it's easy to assume that people understand what's going on. And what's going on in these remote communities is definitely a concern. I know we had a conversation a couple of years ago, and you were explaining to me at the time one of the biggest challenges that you had, if my memory serves me correctly, was the young people taking phones out in the bush and watching a lot of porn.
Unfortunately, and again, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think it's remote communities.
No.
I think it's anywhere and
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, porn is our number one educator, and I actually bought copies for you guys in those books, a set for everyone. There's a fantastic book that I really recommend. It's not on display here, but it's in the bag. It's called Talk Soon, Talk Often.
Okay.
Because porn is our number one sex educator, and I want parents to be Google. Parents, please don't ever tell your children to go and Google anything because, they hear something and then they Google it. You will live in Perth. Sometimes we driving, to work at 8:30 in the morning, and over the radio comes, do you suffer from erectile dysfunction?
Yep.
And a little voice from the back goes, Mum, what's erectile dysfunction?
Yeah.
The parent usually goes, well, I don't know, ask your father. But how many parents...
Let me tell you.
We have some
Hang on.
stories
No.
about that.
It'll be over before the light changes. There we go, right?
But how many parents would feel comfortable saying it's when a man's penis won't go hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book
Yeah.
Talk Soon, Talk Often.
And keep it straight face. Sorry.
Exactly. And it needs to be fun. That's the thing. Everybody, what if I get it wrong? No, we need to start talking about, sex from this big.
Okay.
But it's not, the acts of it. It's, when they're little, it's naming body parts and simple things like that.
Yeah, because there's and I had a quick flick through one of your books, and it was something to do with if a girl calls her vagina a cookie and she has a problem, that someone stole, or touched her cookie, you would not know what she was talking about. Whereas if you use the correct language,
Absolutely.
then you have.
There's no cookies out there that are called vaginas.
Don't know. I've been to some strange restaurants.
Yeah.
No, but it's a great point. It
For
really
children,
Yeah.
like we grew up having a name for everything.
Yeah.
And that was Australian culture too,
Because people were embarrassed, weren't they, Leanne?
Yeah.
very embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say vagina and penis. I said it. And there's a snicker with the kids behind it when they're saying, oh, I said it. So I don't know. How do you get away from the snicker with these kids in calling it the correct language?
I'd much rather teach this to 4-year-olds than the 15-year-olds I had to on Palm Island, where I got an education that day. And I don't know how broad you can be on your show.
We
Very
can be
broad.
as broad as we want to.
But, we brainstorm all of the words. And
Yeah.
I say they're called home names or street names. So we've got to get away from it being your rude part, because with
Yeah.
rude
Yeah.
comes shame.
Yes.
So you get
Yeah.
Willie and
Good point.
Cockle and Doodle and Tallywhacker. And I had a little boy recently say, my grandmother calls it a cuckoo bird. And then I just had a picture of the cuckoo bird going in the cuckoo house. Why
Oh,
would you do that to your children?
Yeah.
Please don't do
I
that.
don't know.
I love this. I
As
want
a
to know
boy,
all the
though,
names
in your
now.
teenage years, there is a little bit of a popping out of the anyway, I can understand the cuckoo at that time of your life. Never mind.
The worst one, if you want to hear the worst
Yeah, I
one I've
do.
ever heard, and this was on Palm Island with the 15-year-olds,
Mhm.
they said, oh, miss, it's called a purple yogurt slinger. And I went, oh,
Whoa.
Purple yogurt slinger. Oh no, that's conjured up a lot of images.
I know, right?
Well, it's like the eggplant thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it's all. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the
Okay.
emoji.
Yeah, the emoji. Okay. Everybody knows what. Well, I hope everybody knows what the.
No,
eggplant
Lisa may
emoji-
not have. Did
No?
you know that the eggplant emoji?
What
Yeah,
it
because I
means?
watched that movie that came
Oh,
out.
did you?
Oh,
So,
there you
yeah.
I
go.
didn't know
Okay.
until someone told me, probably
Yeah.
18 months ago.
Yeah. So, Holly, when we were talking about you coming onto the show, you said the timing's fantastic because of recent events. So because this will be up on YouTube for a very long time, and it would be good if you could just explain exactly what's recently happened.
Oh, okay, yep.
And then what I would like to do, based around that event and those events, I put a Facebook post up on my personal page, and I'm going to pop it up here. And there was so much division and comments and emotion around that. So we've actually got a lovely lady in the green room that's going to, after I put this post up, she's going to put the different comments up.
Yeah.
I just want to make it really clear that the comments that come up aren't necessarily any of our opinions whatsoever. And the reason that we're showing them is just to demonstrate how angry people are feeling about what is happening. And what we'd like to do by the end of this show is give some solutions with your expertise. Is that okay?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so I'll just show the Facebook post I put up first, and then Eddie can put the rest up. But if you could just explain to people.
So there has been allegations. The first one came out about a 26-year-old educator in Victoria who had abused children at the daycare centre. The next day there was a second person came, named with alleged allegations. But of course, the way that the media have portrayed it is, that men in childcare centres need to be taken out, and I don't think we're having the honest conversation. And I'm not saying a program like mine would have stopped what happened, but with training educators and the children, because the children were aged from 5 months to 2 years, we need to start when children, we were talking about private parts before, we need to start naming, from when they're, when they're 8 months old, we can be saying, mummy's wiping your bottom, mummy's wiping the poo off around your penis, or, oh, you've got something on your vulva. We should be using that language right from that age. So, but everybody's calling for more cameras and getting males out of early years and things like that. That's so not helpful. There should always be 2 people in a room. So there's 20,000, a lack of 20,000 educators in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. Male educators in childcare is between 3 and 5%. I believe that we need at least 20% male educators in early years, because kids need good role models. They need male role models.
Yeah,
They
we've
need
got
male
that problem
role
in
models. They
schools
do,
as well.
Absolutely. And I'm, my point is on this is we don't actually need less of masculinity in life. Okay, we need more. We need true masculinity back again. And this whole ridiculous lie about toxic this, toxic that, toxic masculinity, it's just a beat up by the corporate media to sell. Okay, they need money. Okay, they're becoming more and more irrelevant every day. Right, we're watching their numbers go down, so they have to be sensational about things. Right, okay. Genuine masculinity is far from toxic. It's actually incredibly protective. Okay, and I consider myself, pretty masculine man, I guess. And from that point of view, the protecting the people I love is my priority. Right, that is number one. That is where I stand, and everything else falls after that. So you've got so many boys now who are growing up without any male role models. Single motherhood is just the norm now. So many children just don't have a man in their life to grow up. So more in the education system, whether it's from daycare to through school, is actually a very, very positive thing. And I want to actually show this last little point, okay? This is how ridiculous it is in my eyes, the comment about removing all men from this industry. This is how stupid it is. Should we stop all women from being chefs? Should all women not allowed to be in commercial kitchens? Well, because guess what? We've just discovered that women can't be trusted around mushrooms, okay?
Fair call.
That's how dumb it is. But that's my point. That's how dumb it is to remove men. You're going to remove women because one vile human being did a vile thing. And this is not about gender. That is about a vile human being, just like that. And, and I get all awkward about the word alleged, but, these particular people and what they've been alleged to have done, let's let them have a trial. That's kind of important, right? But, they are the scum of society. Anybody who harms a child, there is no lower. I
think there's more educators, male educators, in the upper school system than there is in the lower school system and in childcare. I was just thinking back then to when my kids were at school. They're 30 and 28 now. And in primary school, there was the principal, I think, and the PE teacher, and the rest were female.
Yeah.
So there were no role models. If those children aren't getting that role model at home, then, or from a grandparent even, or any of those, then they're not getting much in early childhood education either, are they?
No, 100%. And on Friday, ironically, on the news was similar to your get the women out of the from being chefs. There was on the news a story of a air steward who had been caught with all this child exploitation. I said, well, get the males off the planes because kids go on planes. So these knee-jerk reactions, like putting up cameras. I've got a huge problem with putting up more cameras. Really big corporate organisations that own a lot of childcare centres are saying we're putting them in all of them. Who's going to manage that data?
Oh, that's
My
right.
Qantas club was hacked. And I think Qantas would be
I had that as well.
Yeah.
Who's going to, you cannot have cameras and then if parents have got access and then, that kid hit my little Johnny over here and, do we have cameras in the changing rooms and then you're making child exploitation material? It's just fraught.
I agree. And we have a right to privacy, okay? Again, like this is... We keep in society these days, certainly in the Western world, we keep making massive changes and massive concessions for a very, very small amount of population, right? Whatever that happens to be, and we can open up that Pandora's box another day. But, okay, these disgusting pieces of crap, that's what they are, okay, these abusers are a smaller part of society, and we shouldn't be changing everything in society to suit them. What we should be doing is finding them and dealing with them accordingly. And again, quite frankly, if there was more masculinity in the world, genuine masculinity, then we wouldn't have such a problem.
Barry's baby says, here, Aaron.
There we go.
That's Monique.
That's Monique. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Monique.
And anybody else watching, please do engage. We've got some comments coming up that were on the Facebook post, but we'd love to hear more. Now, we entitled the name of this show that did parents know who's coming into their children's bedrooms, and that not just at night. So can you just explain what the dangers are, Holly?
Oh, absolutely, because before this will happen, we said this ages ago when we set all this up. My big concern is when I'm with a class of, and it's across the board, doesn't matter where I am in Australia, when I'm in a class of grade 3s, 2/3 of grade 3s upwards tell me they go online when their parents are asleep.
Oh,
they're on YouTube, they're on all, they're gaming, Fortnite, Roblox and Minecraft. We're all probably around the same,
they're 8 years old.
Yeah. We're probably all around the same, and we were told about the white vans driving around.
Yeah.
These games are now the white vans.
They are the white vans. Beautifully
and V-Bucks and Robux are the new lot bag of lollies.
Okay.
And these predators are saying to young kids, come off of the game, either onto WhatsApp or Telegram, because they're encrypted.
Mhm.
And so they're being offered these V-Bucks or Robux, which are, if you don't know, are virtual dollars, basically a bit like Bitcoin, you've got nothing in your hand.
Wow.
So the kids want these, because the games are free, but then you need the V-Bucks or the Robux to buy things in the game. They're being offered V-Bucks or Robux for naked pictures, and I've been working with a dad here in Western Australia, and he's given me consent to tell this story.
Right.
His 10-year-old was playing one of these 3 games with a 14-year-old.
Right.
And so the 14-year-old says, come off and set up a WhatsApp account. And the dad sees all of the chat because he's on his phone all the time. Give me your phone. What's going on? He sees all the chat, sees, I'll give you some V-Bucks if you send me a naked picture, sees a picture of his son's penis.
Oh, my
Freaks out,
goodness.
doesn't know what to do.
Yep.
Fortunately, he took screenshots of everything. Now, this dad's mother works for Child Protection.
Oh,
So
wow.
he sends everything to his mum saying, Mum, look what your grandson's done. She said, son, go to the police. He goes to the local police station.
Mhm.
They didn't know how to handle it.
Of course they don't.
Wow.
It hung over his head, and he's happy for me he's given me consent to tell this story.
Yeah.
He
Jeez.
did try to take his own life.
Oh, geez.
Oh.
What the child did.
No, the dad.
Oh.
Because he was, will I end up on a sex offender register? Will Child Protection take my child?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm a single dad.
Why would he end up on the register? What have I missed?
Because he sent a naked picture of his son's penis to his mother.
Ah.
And that's where the crime is, using a carrier. Later they came back and said, oh, sorry, mate, we made a mistake. But, I need your listeners to know, please, if anything like this happens, you take screenshots of everything, but it needs to be reported to the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation, the ACCCE.
Okay.
They have the technology. They will go after the baddies. So if anything to do with cyberbullying, so anything to do with words, gets reported to the E-Safety Commission,
Mhm.
but anything to do with naked images, I would go straight to the ACCCE. Now, I've actually had dealings with them, and I'll never, ever forget this. I was we'd just gone into lockdown here in Perth back when we had COVID. It was in March, and I received a naked image on, somebody had messaged me on Instagram, not knowing they'd seen some child exploitation on Instagram, and they've tagged at Safe for Kids, at FBI, at Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, NetMec in the States, which is where it'll go eventually.
Okay.
So I couldn't believe what I was seeing in this picture. It was just, but I still had enough wherewithal. I was bawling my eyes out, but I still had enough wherewithal to go, right, I need to take a screenshot of the guy's face, but not what he was doing to the children. I go out, I take a screenshot of his account. I then go and try to take a screenshot of who had sent it to me, but it had already disappeared.
Okay.
I then go online at 5:00 in the afternoon, reporting it to the ACCCE, the Australian Centre. I hit send. It goes off to Canberra to the federal. That's the federal police.
Sure.
10:00 the next morning, they're ringing me saying, "Look, Holly, thank you. You were the first report. We've had 7 other reports.
Okay.
Yep.
We've sent it off to the US. It's being dealt with. Thank you very much." You know how long COVID was. That was 2020. I still have flashbacks about that one image.
Wow.
Every now and then it will just pop into my head and I just burst into tears. And I saw one
Wow.
image.
I understand.
But children are seeing violent pornography and not knowing how to process it.
This is where, though, I know it's Holly's show, but this is where apps like YouChoose actually should come in. And this is where parents need to actually think about
100%.
putting things like that in, because that's phenomenal. Like being able to pick that up as soon as someone on Roblox says, come to WhatsApp, you should be able to flag that,
Yes.
right?
No doubt about it.
That should be flagged straight away for those parents.
What I don't disagree with what you're saying, but the thing that came into my mind as you were saying that is, don't parents have the ability these days to stop children using their devices after a certain time, like ban them from the internet?
Lisa, they are so cunning.
Mhm.
My boys were so cunning. You have no idea. If they want to be on something, they will be on it. You think that they're not. I bet you if I get Aiden on the phone right now, he will say, oh, yeah, we can tell you a lot of things.
I agree. Look, this is what happened in my life on that one, as far as my eldest stepdaughter, who I love very, very much, as my own. I got an email from the school saying that she'd been watching adult material in Mandarin class. She's been watching porn in class, simple as that. And anyway, the process was ridiculous, and why I'm still angry to this day about this is because the school, in my opinion, promoted that, and I'll tell you how. So my daughter, at her school, everyone was on iPads. That was one of their first schools where they were stopping using paper. It was all done on iPads. So all the children had to have them. We did that, and we obviously bought our children iPads. Anyway, the school they alerted me to the problem, then told me that then what I did is, so no worries. I believe that that's her currency. So I took her iPad away from her, okay? I gave her 2 weeks. Yeah,
Why are you doing that?
I ask parents not to ever use technology as a punishment,
Right.
because if they do see stuff, then they're not going to tell us because you're going to take their iPad away.
Oh, okay.
Here's
Oh,
the
that's
argument.
interesting.
Yeah,
See, I would have done exactly what you did.
Me too.
And I'm with you on all of this. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But so in my mind, it's about
totally.
the child's currency.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, and
So
that's the problem.
right.
Yeah.
And yes,
Yeah.
that
I'd rather you cut their arm off than take their iPad
gotcha.
away.
Yeah, absolutely. And she
Yeah.
would hide in the bathroom and lock the bathroom and all sorts of stuff just to be on iPad. Anyway, long story short, the school then, because of that, the school contacted me and had a go at me, right? And at first they tried to defend themselves, right, about that. And this is, Joseph Banks Senior Secondary College, right? So they then sent me an email trying to back out and protect themselves about the fact that they've got nanny stuff and, about the Wi-Fi, and that they couldn't go and look at these sites. Have you ever heard of a hotspot, kids? Come on. So one kid's got a phone, and what they all do is they use the hotspot, and that's what they do at school. Anyway, long story short on this is then the school had a go at me for taking away the iPad and said that I was damaging her education by taking the iPad from her for 2 weeks. And it became very, very apparent to me at that time, and certainly the actions that came over the next period, right, which quite frankly destroyed my entire family, right, that the government believe they own our children, right? We don't have a right to parent anymore. Parents are being treated like second-class citizens. And in the case of, say, something like what used to be called the Child Protection Agency, now it's Department of Families and Communities or whatever, okay, is, I'm going to be very, very frank, full of these disgusting people. It is full of pedos. The man who actually, the head of the Child Protection Agency in Australia literally has been in jail for this. What the hell do we do when government is so entrenched in the problem?
Can I just interrupt for a moment?
Yeah.
Just take a little breather.
Yeah.
I believe it's time for a short break.
Oh, do you think that's the time?
It is.
Okay.
It
And
is time for a
definitely
short
for my break.
All right. Okay. Well, with that, we'll go for a quick little break. Back in just a tick. It's Edge Radio Australia.
Is pain holding you back? Bowen Therapy with Panacea Healing can change that for you. It's never too late to recharge your health, career, or purpose. You have the power within yourself to change what no longer serves you, taking your life and health to another level. panaceahealing.com.au. You can do anything.
I want the tools.
So, Holly, thanks for that. Quick little opportunity for everyone to take a breather there. What's your response to, in my eyes, okay, and the eyes of a lot of parents out there, the government is now the enemy. They are actually the ones who they believe they own our children. They believe that they.
Well, I try and empower parents to, they've got to have the language.
Okay, and that's great, because that's kind of where I'm going on here. So, because I want parents to take control of their lives, and you know what, and be able to be a proper parent and actually raise their children and be able to steer their children, right? So, by using the right language, that people will come forward. I believe that. So, if you're, well, I'll let you speak about that, about the language side of things.
So what would you recommend that parents and educators do? Give us some tips.
Open communication.
Okay.
Yep.
Be your child's Google. Don't ever say go and Google it. But, when children come to us and, yes, you might be peeling the potatoes and you're busy, you've got to get tea and then you've got to go to the P&C or whatever, make time for children. because it might seem insignificant to you, but our program's built on two things. We all have the right to feel safe all of the time,
Yep.
and we can talk to someone about anything. But if they've just tried to tell you about their day, if they can't tell us the little things, then they can't tell us the big things.
100%.
One of the things we do with the children is we help them set up a safety team of 5 adults they can talk to. And so how it works is on the thumb are people from their home, and then people from school, and then people from the community. So we're trying to spread giving them a wider spread of different people. But if you've just modeled to your child, oh, I'm too busy, I can't listen to you, or if your child comes home after school and says, Mum, I was suspended today, or, whatever it is, and you go off your brain, what's the likelihood of saying, Mum, I'm pregnant, I've got a girl pregnant, or I'm on drugs? So we need to model to children that they can come and tell us anything. And so if you do go off your brain, please go back and build that bridge. I have a podcast, and I interviewed this young fella from America who at 14 he's using his words, he felt he was addicted to pornography. And then a couple of years later, when he was 18, I re-interviewed him. And he gave me one of probably the best tips that I could give to parents is to have a no trouble bubble. So if your child comes to you,
I think that's what my next
So
put up.
funny.
Talk about
There we go, right on.
talk about the no blame bubble. God, she knows you well.
so basically what it is the child comes to you and says, such and such has happened. They get a 8-second hug. They're told they're loved, and we'll deal with it in the morning. So say it was they saw pornography. Your first reaction is, what the f- is going on? But, it's the idea is so you both get a good night's sleep. Now, the parent's never going to get a good night's sleep because they're going to be up all night Googling, my kids saw porn, what do I do?
Yeah.
But please tell me I'm not special. How many of you have had this experience? Because I'll have words with my husband in the morning. He works from home. I go out to schools. So I'll go off to school, and then on the way home, I'm going, right, when I get home, we've had, this bit of an argument brewing. I'm going to say this, then he'll say that, and then I'm going to stick him with that. I get home, I say, right, no worries, that's okay. I'm not special, am I? Have you all had that experience where you've had that conversation with your
I have the
partner
right
in
to
your
remain
head?
silent. Anything I say will definitely be used.
Sometimes you work it out in your head before you even get home, and you don't have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
That's right. It never goes the way. Or you go to the dentist, dreading the dentist, and then when you go there, oh, it wasn't that bad. Kids do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And so
it's just human.
Absolutely. And so, I know of a couple of 14-year-old girls, best friends, lived next door to each other. One of the 14-year-old girls thought she was pregnant, and the other girl's parents were really strict. So she says to her mate, I think I'm pregnant. So the two girls go off to the doctor. The doctor says, yeah, you're pregnant. Go home and tell your families. They go, yeah, whatever. They go to the movies. They go late night shopping. It gets to 11:30 at night. The girl that was pregnant was too scared to go home and say, hey, guess what? You're going to be grandparents. The other girl thought she was going to get into trouble for getting home late. These girls didn't go home for 2.5 months.
Whoa.
Oh,
They
wow.
lived on the streets. The girl that had lost the baby because they got into drugs and all sorts of things, all because of the reaction from their parents. We don't know how those parents would have reacted.
No, we don't.
No.
But kids can only go on their previous life experiences.
Yeah, we can all only go on our previous life experiences, but we need to change that. We need to change that for the next generation.
Absolutely.
Right?
So did we cover how to block predators gaining access? I mean, is there a...
Well, let's
is
talk
there-
about that, definitely.
No technology in bedrooms ever.
Right.
In bedrooms and in toilets and bathrooms, because, we haven't even touched on sextortion at the moment, and that's a whole new big
we
problem.
need to have you back on then.
What is sextortion?
So sextortion is, and it's the fastest growing cybercrime. It's happening to young fellas from 11 to 24 on Snapchat or Instagram. I sent a naked image, and then they say, I sent you one, now you send me one, and boys go, here you go. And then they're...
Why did I send one back?
Are you kidding me? Because we spend our
They're
entire
hot.
life trying to meet women. That's all we do.
They're,
we
they're
wait.
attached to their penis.
Oh, no, it's not even that. It's honestly, it's like a man's existence is we live our lives for women. This is what women need to really wake up and understand, is that's why we drive the fast cars. That's why we have the nice things, all that kind of carrying. We're always looking for validation from women. I don't care. Yeah, you can swing it whatever you like. So if a woman sends you and a little hottie sends you a picture, right, guess what? Okay, now, some of us are more mature and will understand there's ramifications. But when you're young, particularly, I can imagine the pressure they would feel. Okay?
You imagine or you have experience?
Oh,
is
no,
that-
no.
He's just digging.
No, I have.
He just went like that, which means he's lying.
Oh, no.
He just said
Is that
no
his
and rubbed
towel?
his
There are more,
nose.
there are more
Is that
details.
his
I know body language.
I have sent explicit pictures of myself to a woman once, right? Okay, I have, but once, and that's why I just hold up stereo fingers. Never mind. But this is because we were together for a while. We'd been
So it
seeing each
wasn't
other.
sextortion then.
Well, no. She sent me a couple
Sextortion
of
is
naughties.
when you're using someone else's pictures without
Yeah.
their consent, isn't
No,
it?
it's where they ask for money. So they get firstly when they get the
Oh,
image.
there was that young boy.
We've lost 51 young men worldwide
My
because
God.
of this
Jeez.
crime.
There's a dad that's out there doing
Yeah, there's lot. Well, there's
like he's all over the internet.
Yeah.
Doing that with his
Right.
kids. Yeah, that's what's.
I've written a really fantastic song in Hermansburg in the territory about sextortion. Who in their right mind would write a song about sextortion? Well,
You.
me and maybe Tim Minchin might, but
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
only two of them.
Oh, well, we could have played it today.
Yeah, never mind.
This book too, and this is why I've got it up here because I really thought that was really good. Let me have a quick look at it. Parents' Guide to Child Protection Education: How to Teach Children Body Safety and Abuse Prevention. Is this something that parents can get hold of?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're all my books are on my website. But
Holly has some amazing books, really good ones for kids to have a listen, like to read stories to tell. So you don't have to think about, what am I going to tell my children? You've actually got the books that, and I had a quick flick through, told you. You've actually got the books that are capable of giving parents the tools. So this is some of your tools, right?
Absolutely. And I also have an online parent course, and as part of that, you actually get to download the book for free.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Because we just need to, we were talking off air, we've got to prepare parents when 28.5% of Australia's children will suffer some form of sexual abuse. We've got to get comfortable with having those uncomfortable conversations, but it doesn't have to be scary.
It doesn't.
Quite often on TikTok, parents will say, well, what do I do with my 2-year-old? You teach them the correct anatomical names. And it's, we've got to explicitly teach consent. And
shouldn't that be in schools as well then, that we
absolutely
that in our curriculum?
It is.
It is.
But a lot of schools aren't doing it well. It's mandated in Western Australia that every school will teach protected behaviours. Some schools I know get in the Constable Care puppet show for 45 minutes and say, yeah, we did it. But basically I say, if you're not talking about grooming, cyber safety, consent, sextortion, and these really pornography. I spend my life talking about pornography.
Yeah.
We have to go deeper than just, early warning signs and drawing around a hand and picking 5 people. I mentioned about the safety team.
Yes.
But we have to go a lot deeper than that. I'm actually now talking to 5-year-olds about coercive control.
Wow.
And I love watching the teachers' faces because they go to the assistant. Did that bird just say, she doesn't know they're 5. Did she just say coercive control? Absolutely. Because you can't come to my birthday party, or I won't be your friend if you don't do what I want. It's called coercive control. We've got language now. When we were kids, we didn't have that language.
I don't, because it's unbelievably misused.
Absolutely.
Unbelievably misused. This is the problem, this complete culture.
You don't like educating 5-year-olds that coercive control exists?
For two things on this front,
Okay.
I want schools less involved. I want parents to actually be teaching their kids far more. Okay, when things go to the education system and they become groupthink and all of that, and when you get agencies like, and I will put my hand in the air and very comfortably say the West Australian Education, the Ministry of Education, whatever the department anyway, okay, is full of some pretty crappy people. It really is. I've had to deal with them. I'm not going to say all of them. I've said, but
he does tend to lean that way though.
But I would lean towards there are a lot of very, very, very poor people in there, right? I don't want those very poor people who have got other agendas educating my children. I think as little the school can do as possible, and I think parents need to step up. And this is the thing.
I don't think
Here's
so.
the problem. Parents have failed, right? Parents have, and there's lots of reasons, because you've got, like that father before, the fear of losing your children, right? Okay, I'm telling you right now, as a single dad, right, everything you do and everything you say is scrutinised very differently.
We've got 2 questions in here when we're ready as well.
Fantastic. Well, there's something up here on the screen I've actually popped up before.
Yeah.
And I want to throw straight to that, actually, if I may. Now, I want to actually talk about Holly's opinion on the new laws stopping kids younger than 16 being on the internet. What are your thoughts there?
How long have we got?
Let's go.
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Yes or no?
No, look, I'm happy to go long on today's show. A little bit long, won't
Good.
I can't see it working, to be honest. I know why they're doing it, but again, it's about educating both the parents and the children. We need children to be digital citizens.
Yeah.
And, this knee-jerk reaction, kids are way savvy. Lots of grade 2s are on TikTok. In the communities I go in, the 2-year-olds are on TikTok, but I can't imagine a parent going, give me your phone, because the kids just had a tantrum.
Yeah.
There's all of the, at the moment now, the E-Safety Commission is talking about banning YouTube. You're talking about education, a lot of teachers
But 𝐸-Karen is a disaster, okay? If anybody who knows anything about 𝐸-Karen, she is an absolute monster,
I
right?
haven't heard that terminology.
I don't even know what 𝐸-Karen is, but can I say something, please, Aaron?
Yeah.
I would like to say, and I'd love your opinion on this, I think if it was left up to the parents, it wouldn't get done. So I think we need to rely on the schools.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
Have
And
you
I
seen
don't
a lot of parents, like when their kids talk to them and they're on the train?
Exactly.
They're on their phone, and then if their kid interrupts them, they hand the kid an iPad because they don't want to be.
I hate that.
And
Or you go to
you're
dinner and
saying
everybody's
parents-
on a
Yeah.
iPad or
and you're
phone.
saying for parents to take more control, they're not. So where do the kids go to? They go to our education system.
Well,
And in the education, if the education system actually steps up a little bit more, then,
You're
this
in
is
the
where
education system,
this is where
aren't
Holly
you?
comes in.
Yeah.
Bringing this into the education
Look, if
system,
we could do
so
things
that
properly, we'd put licenses on having children.
we would
'Cause
need
most people shouldn't be able to have
we need a
children.
Holly in every school.
Yeah, we do. So we got another question
So,
here.
but just on that, so you feel that the under 16 thing, you think that's a bad idea?
Well,
I think it's weird.
Unrealistic.
it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
I think it will be, and this is the Prime Minister's logic, it will give parents you can't go on it because the government have said so. So it's parents stepping out of taking responsibility.
That's
But
a good point, isn't it?
And it's again control.
kids already know about, and I think it's VPNs. I'm useless at technology.
VPN.
They know how to get around all this stuff.
They know more than we do.
It's going to send it underground, and that's my worry. It's like when kids see porn, they're not going to tell a parent because they'll take their iPad away.
Yeah.
So I'm about building connections, and it goes back to that connections and having those open conversations about, if you see porn, please come and tell me, because I need to debrief you about what you've seen, because, I know I had a psychologist from the Eastern States contact me talking about some resources, and she said, look, Holly, you're so helpful. Can I run this past you? She said, I've been seeing this young 10-year-old who won't go to sleep at night. She's up until 2 o'clock or so, and she just crashes and just falls asleep, and then she will not go to sleep properly.
Right.
She said, I've spoken to every one of my colleagues about this. I've had 5 sessions with her. I can't get to the bottom of it. I said, ask me something hard. I said, go back and ask her if she's seen pictures or movies of people no clothes on. She rings me and says, how did you know?
Wow.
This little girl had seen the most graphic, heinous pornography. Every time she shut her eyes, she was reliving it.
Wow.
So kids think that dad is doing that to mum. Kids kids are not, and if nobody's having this conversation to say that is not a healthy relationship, that, this is why choking, I had to make a video for 5-year-olds about choking, because in every school I go into, kids get angry. The first thing they do is they grab somebody around the throat. Choking, and, I'm about to do a thing on TikTok about there is no safe way, and I don't care if it's your kink, there is no safe way to choke. It's having a safe word. It's ridiculous.
I don't get it, and it's just that
yuck.
desire to be more and more and more extreme about everything. Right? Absolutely, and you are so on the money. The fact is, children are thinking now that that's what mum and dad do behind closed doors.
Yep.
And if you love someone, I wouldn't do those things to someone I love.
No.
And I'm certainly not vanilla, I'll tell you right now. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know, children need to understand that sex is, should be an extension of love. Okay, you know what? Sometimes it's just fun, but it's not this nasty, angry event which they're being taught that it is.
Swearing, slapping, choking, all of those things.
Yeah.
And there's a certain sex act that all 14-year-olds think is totally normal, and you need a lot of consent around it, otherwise you can really badly be damaged. And but everybody thinks that that's totally normal, and everybody
Are
wants
these
it.
14-year-old boys or girls?
Both.
Or
Both.
So there's a particular act they think is normal.
Yep.
And they're discussing that with you.
They are. Sorry, the question that was just up before, it's just in case we've just missed this one.
Yes, that's the second question Samuel's asked, actually.
What was the first one? That was really interesting.
So the first one that Samuel said was, "Good morning, Lisa and the crew. My question is, how do we get over the fear or discomfort around talking about abuse and prevention in our homes, schools and churches?" That's a great question.
It is a great question.
And that's why that book, Talk Soon, Talk Often, that is free from the health department. So in Western Australia, you can get it free, but that person sounds like they're somewhere else.
Yeah, so we have
Good
in
morning,
other
it'll be
parts
another
of the
hemisphere,
world.
yeah.
You can download it. So if you go onto the West Australia, or just Google Talk Soon, Talk Often, they can download the book as a PDF.
Oh, excellent.
And what I love about it, where's my bag? Because we could show it to somebody.
I think it's
Oh, I
It's
never,
over there.
never mind.
You know how hard it was to get on the couch.
I know, right?
we're all in the same boat trying to get off.
But people can download it. But it talks about this is what you teach them from 0 to 2, from 2 to 4. It's age appropriate.
Wow, that's really
sex
good.
education, and it's little bits. When it's in the bath is when you talk to them about if you've got 2 kids in a bath and if one goes to touch the other one, remember we've got to can't touch
Why
anybody's
do we
private
not
parts.
know about this? Why as parents we
Adam
not
and Eve's fault.
Well,
Shame.
no, the book, the PDF,
Oh, the PDF.
the resources. How do parents find out about those things?
Well, I wish so whenever I do a parent workshop, everybody gets one, and then they get one for the neighbour because they're free from our health department. They get one for the neighbour, one for the sister-in-law, and everybody gets one. You've all got one.
Yeah, thank you.
And you want it or not. I'm all about consent, but there's no consent here. You're getting this book tonight. But exactly, it's really sad that there are free tools out there for parents, and yet
They should be in like in reception areas at the schools or at the like at the desks.
Great
when
point.
you take your child to childcare.
Yeah.
You should have these books there. They should be
in the
readily
doctor's surgery.
everywhere.
So one of the things I find interesting, which doesn't affect any of you here, I don't believe, is being a grandmother. So I find that a little bit awkward because, as an example, when I'm bathing my grandchildren, like I don't want to overstep the mark because I don't know what the mother would particularly say. And then I say, I remember.
Have a conversation. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
It's having those open conversations.
Having those open conversations. So I'll definitely share that
Okay.
resource with
That's great.
with the
Holly,
parents. But I think a lot of grandparents would be in this position. That's the
Oh,
point I'm trying to
absolutely.
I'm
make.
glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a great experience. A mum came to a workshop in Success. The local council had put it on. She came along, loved the program so much. She went home. She had a 4-year-old daughter, taught her protective behaviours. And then when her daughter went to school, she fought her way on to be the chairperson of the P&C to get me into this school.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Bless her, she brought all 5 people. She brought both grandparents, an aunt, and the girl that does babysitting for them. So all the people on her child's safety team she brought to my training.
Gotcha.
The grandfather came up at the end. I talk about consent, but he didn't ask to hug me. He just threw his arms around my neck with tears in his eyes and said, "Thank you."
Wow.
He said, when my 4-year-old, I was toileting her and she shut the door on me, and I was so offended. What is she, why is she, I'm her grandfather. I'm just helping her with it. He said, "Thank you." He said, "I get it now."
Yeah.
For him, it was such an eye-opener.
Yeah. An aha moment.
Yeah. I did a talk for a group of adults that do good stuff I won't name which one it was, but good stuff in the community. And there were 30 fellas and 5 women in this group, and all of them would have been grandparents. And I said, the greatest gift you'll give your grandchildren is teaching them about consent. Well, this one man, what he's saying, I'm a pedophile.
Wow.
No, but he went at me like he was
a
really
trigger.
He was. By the end of it, we were best friends, and he thought I was the best thing. And can I go to his grandkids' school? But so that's not what I'm saying. But if you have to ask to hug your grandkids or kiss your grandkids, no spotty 14-year-olds getting their hands on them, because you've empowered them. That if I've got to, as a grandfather, I've got to empower.
What a great
and
way to look at it. Yeah.
And so we've got to explicitly teach consent.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of grey in that personally, but I think that there's.
What do you mean, Aaron?
Well, okay. Do you remember a few years ago? It's not that long ago. 3 years, whatever.
You never ask for consent when you want a hug.
No, I don't. Well, but I am conscious of it because
I do like your hugs.
Yeah, I only hug those people who, well, if I feel that the vibe's been given, then I'll take it on.
Sorry, I went off tangent.
No, that's okay. That's okay. All right. So a couple of years back, whatever it was, there was a woman on TV who was out there, the Blue Head Brigade, right, who was out there saying about
pink. I
was
know
it pink?
The woman who
you know where I'm
talking
going?
about. Yeah,
Consent
I know
to changing
exactly
nappies, right?
Yeah.
Now I've been a single dad. I've been a dad at one stage I had 4 kids in nappies at the same time. I can turn a nappy run into a production line, okay? And now, and you just, it's not sexual. You're cleaning your child. Gross. Anybody who thought any other way, there's something wrong with you, right? So she was talking about you ask consent before you do this and do that. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't agree exactly where that person came from, but in
What
childcare,
was this person saying, by the way?
that you have to ask children from the age of 2. It's about autonomy. So, and especially in childcare, because sometimes childcare educators say, "Oh, but Holly, I've got 12 kids to change them. I just have to change them." We can still give them autonomy. We can say either this staff member will do it or this staff member will do it. Or by the time I've done all of the other kids in the room, to keep you safe, I have to change your... So we can still give them some sort of choice control time limit. With parents, to keep you safe, Daddy's going to, change you now. So it's about that communication.
No, I totally disagree with it. I think that, and here's a problem. Okay, and I can have this opinion because I'm the only male here. Unfortunately, as men, we are treated like second-class citizens in this regard, and we're often treated like we're a pedo or whatever. If I go and sit at a park and eat my lunch, right, you're treated like that's if there's play equipment there, you can't be there where there's children playing, all of that. You've got to be conscious of where you're walking. I'm never going to ask permission of my child if I can change their...
I didn't say ask permission. I said tell them what you're doing so that, again... if Dad's going to talk to me about, is it okay if I just wipe your bottom, stuff like that?
No, that's...
I'm not saying,
I always talk to my kids, whether
it's
it's
about
whether I was
talking to
at
them.
the
It's not
fruit shop or I say, "Oh, let's change this nappy." Oh, it's a smelly one today, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly what I did. I hate this overreach of PC, right? Okay, there's consent and there's safety and there's safe feelings of safety, right? Which is all very, very important. But the overreach of PC, no. We're starting to we're damaging the world. I think we're going too far. And you're actually damaging children rather than helping them. I think what you're saying about better get a smelly one on that, and that's how I used to run it, right? Okay. I think that's good because
it's just normal conversation.
It's normal, but there's a level of comfort. There's this, we've got to stop treating. We wrap. This is such a sensitive thing because I want to wrap my kids in cotton wool because I want to protect them against predators. Okay, but I also don't want to make them so bloody terrified in their everyday life that they're always looking over their shoulder. And I think that there's a bit of a grey area here. That's all I'm saying. I think too much permission.
I think what's Holly's saying, communicate with your child when you're changing the nappy. I don't think it's, I'm going to now come and wipe your butthole or whatever. I don't know. Like,
correct language, please.
I'm coming to wipe your anus, and then I'm going to come around your testes and wipe. I don't think it's going to go that far. I think it is more like, gee, you have a smelly nappy. I need to wipe your bum and let's clean it all off, because otherwise you're going to be really uncomfortable.
I think it was a very valid point what Holly was making before, though, Aaron. Like, if we can make children feel like they're in charge, so that if some pedophile does come and change their nappy, like, there's a difference.
Well, the example I use in my training is, how many times have you been at a birthday party or a party and a parent's made their child kiss everybody goodbye in the room?
Yeah.
You may know everybody at that party.
Yeah.
But if somebody's going to be inappropriate, then kids are going to go, well, they made me kiss that person. I guess it's okay. We're giving kids mixed messages.
There's been a couple of
time.
old men when family friends, when you've had to go and say goodbye and you had to kiss them goodbye, and they turn their face and kiss you on the lips.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gross. Why do they do that?
They're because I think they're like that.
And I'm so glad that you're educating on this, because, I was from that era where you were.
Yes, we were encouraged to go.
That's why I wrote that yellow book.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's about. It was my story from when I was a child.
Right.
My uncle would take out his teeth and go, give me a kiss. The kids love the story, but it's about unwanted touching without it being sexual.
Yeah.
But my family would make me kiss this old man goodbye. But the reason that I wrote the story was, I tell my mum I don't like it. She says, come, he's just being a silly old fella, and I get in the car. So then I had to tell my aunt, and she stopped him from doing it. So in my books, there's social stories to show children the steps
That's cool.
of how to get the help.
Yeah.
But, it's about not forcing them and, to kiss everybody goodbye in the room, because, grandma might have growled at them, last week, and they're still harbouring a grudge. What would be wrong with saying to kids, not in front of grandma, but, you didn't want to kiss grandma goodbye? Any reason for that? Because it may be. She told me too often. That's what I want. I want open communication modelled all the time, so that we can be comfortable having, like that question was, how do we get comfortable? Practice. Practice more, start slowly. But people need to have these conversations.
And I think there's a very big difference between having good manners and the affection side of things.
Absolutely.
They're two totally different things. You can
still,
expect your child to be
blow a kiss,
polite,
high five, shake hands without.
But this is my body. And I have control over it.
Yeah. Well, we've all had to kiss, the auntie with the mo. No, it's not fun. It's not nice. And now I agree with that. I think, we could introduce a high five or whatever, but be aware and have the conversation. This is it. This is what all of this is about. Have the conversation. Communication. This is it. Talk to your child, talk to your friends, talk to your family, right? Open these things up. I love the fact that you and I will disagree on a few things, and you know what, that's okay, because that's what genuine conversation's about. Otherwise we're just living in a bubble. But okay, I love the fact that you're talking about using those words, using the correct words. When I grew up, we used stupid words, okay, and
there was a lot.
Yeah, maybe we're not universal on that. I think it's a clever way.
I think Holly probably knows more than we both.
I reckon she does.
I could write a private part dictionary.
We probably need to start wrapping up.
Oh, most definitely.
Aaron, my computer's died. Do you want to just put up a screen? We've got a comment there.
Yeah, there's so many great comments, and I'm sorry that I haven't actually got them all up there, because we've got so much going on there. Fantastic comment there from there we go, from Damien.
Are you able to make the screen bigger so we can see it?
I can do that. Look at this.
So it could be just as simple as like my earrings, thumb up for safe and a thumb down for unsafe.
Oh, look at your earrings. They're so cool.
Everything.
Right.
I've got Wonder Woman shoes on because we teach the kids to do the Superman or the Wonder Woman stance. They stop it, I don't like it. we're standing, especially teachers, we're standing in front of children for 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
I have all of these T-shirts and I've got a Wonder Woman dress. And so when I go back to communities, the kids go, okay, so today we're learning about, because I've got earrings with hands on. So today we're learning about a safety team and early warning signs just from what I'm wearing.
Yeah, okay.
We can be really...
So how do you fund yourself?
Schools normally pay me to go in
Yep.
to work with the children, and the work that I do in remote communities specifically, it's people don't like, a lot of people don't like protective education because they think I'm putting the responsibility on 5-year-olds to keep themselves safe.
Yeah.
Couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
Children are the last line of defence though. So I won't go in if I'm not, it has to be a whole of community approach. So in remote communities, I run a men's workshop and a women's workshop because that's culturally what you have to do.
Mhm.
I train the police, health, childcare,
Yeah.
everybody in that community, because before we end, I'd really like to just tell people that are viewing about what to do if a child does disclose that something's happened to
Yes,
them,
please.
because that's really
Yeah.
important
Please
to
do.
know. But it has to be a whole of community approach. So the work that I do is schools pay me to work with the children. The rest of the work that I do is pro bono, basically, because, I do these workshops after school and things like that. But it has to be everybody working together to keep kids safe.
Mm-hmm.
But before we log off, the greatest fear, especially for a dad, must be, what if my child came to me and told me something had happened? Because most dads are going to go, I'm going to fucking get my gun and I'm going to...
100%.
As you would.
Yep.
But if I'm a child and I've been abused and I tell you,
Mm.
even if you go, you're going to stop me from telling you.
Mm.
So in all of the training I've seen with all the managed reporting stuff, they say, stay calm.
Mhm.
Stay calm.
Definitely stay calm.
When has telling someone to stay calm
How?
ever worked?
Mm.
But to help people stay calm, I teach these 4 sentences. I need these 4 sentences out of somebody's mouth. Holly, I'm glad you told me. I believe you. It's not your fault, and I'm going to do something about it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Just
wow.
having those 4
Yep.
sentences. So I've actually got a poster with all
love
of this on that if you want to share it in wherever you share stuff.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Mm.
And then I'd encourage people to print it off and put it up at the doctor's surgery and at the sports clubs, because everybody will be on a child safety team. And then it goes through, we have to believe all children. It is not our job to investigate. If you ask who, what, when, where, you will damage the case.
Yeah.
So we just need to teach kids. And one of the things that I've just done recently is I made a poster for remote communities, and I use the sign language for who, what, when, where with the kids as well. But so you have to stay calm, say those 4 sentences. So I believe you. I'm glad you told me. I believe you. It's not your fault, and I'm going to do something about it. And then you need to report it to the authorities. Please don't ask any questions. But if a child, kids faff around, and if you couldn't go and swear on a Bible that that's what's happened, the legislation says you need to form a belief. So if people didn't have enough to go, right, I could swear on a Bible that's happened, the only thing I suggest people say is, so tell me more about that, because that is an open-ended
It
question.
certainly is, yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot get in trouble for that. But the second you've gone, right, something's happened to that child, I'm going to follow up with it. Because if I'm a child and I suffer sexual abuse and I tell you, that's my job done. Now it's you've got to stop that happening to me.
Okay.
But every time I have to tell my story, I'm reliving it. So we need the initial disclosure on camera, because we have a less than 6% conviction rate against these people.
Wow.
How often is this
Wow.
people that you know that are doing it?
So 90% is by somebody that is known. About 6% is online, and then 4% of contact sexual abuse is by a stranger.
Okay.
So 90%
Yeah.
in total
So
is
that's
somebody that is known
horrific.
and possibly loved by the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
And is it normally
within the family group.
we really do need to have you back, because we've
Yeah.
just
Can we do another one?
We're going to do another one. Full stop.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
we've gone way over.
Just the comment that was just made, though, is about 90% of it would be someone who loves the child. No, if you do this to a child, you don't love a child. You don't understand
No,
love.
the child loves that the child loves.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Important distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. true love is protection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
100%
anybody
it's
that's wanting to get a hold of Holly, where do they go, Holly?
Safe for Kids, Safe the number 4 Kids.
Yep.
On all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. And Safe for Kids on my website with all the resources.
And if you can't find Holly on Facebook at the moment, it's because
she's been blocked.
She's been blocked. So if anyone's got any control over Facebook, help her get back.
Oh, look, this show
Thank you so
I'll tell you
much.
right now, this show will get pulled down from YouTube in a while. They'll pick up the words and things we've been talking about and they'll actually pull it. So, be aware, share this as often as you possibly can right now because it won't have a long life. But we'll have it, we'll keep it, and we'll pop it away, and we can actually distribute it through our website or any other way because I think these are really important conversations. We need to keep our children safe. And again, I'm going to pump up the masculinity thing again. It's about protection, and men need to step up and protect their kids. Full stop.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you, Holly. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Holly.
it.
It's Edge Radio Australia, the one.
Ever felt lost online finding the right businesses?
Absolutely, like a needle in a haystack.
Introducing the Worldwide Awake Business Directory.
Tell me more.
It's your hub for businesses sharing your values. Discover eco-friendly products, socially responsible services, and more.
Count me in. I'll check it out straight away.
Find businesses aligned with your values on the Worldwide Awake Business Directory. Start making a difference with every purchase.